Ways to follow the show is latenightparents.com. Got DT Danny Thompson in the room. Danny, what's going on?
Ted, what's going on, my friends?
Nothing, man. We was talking offline, and I said, man, when we're talking NBA, there's no one better to talk to than you because you cover it. I mean, you cover all sports, but you cover the NBA with a passion. I'm going to use that word that has been used before, passion bucket. Tell me what drives you about covering the NBA?
It's just a love of the game I've had since I was a child. I mean, you know, if you let my parents and my family tell you, I was drilling on sports pages at 9 months old, on box scores. So it's always been in my blood, you know, to do basketball. And once I realized about the 8th and 9th grade when I stopped growing, knowing that I was be a 5'10", maybe 6 foot undersized power forward, I realized I wasn't going to play in the NBA much longer. So,
dude, what are you talking about? I had the pleasure to meet you in person after all these years. Dude, you like 6'2", 6'3". What are you talking about?
No. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'm the same height as Allen Iverson. I'm 6 foot on a good day. So, like, once I realized, you know, at like 5'9", 5'10", I wasn't going to grow much more, and my game was suited to be a power forward and I couldn't dunk on people, I realized stepping behind a laptop or a computer at the time and start typing what I saw was a much better option.
All right, that's cool. So you've been blogging for quite a while. I mean, that's the space that I met you in. So you've been writing for quite a while. You've been covering all different types of games. Your sweet spot is the NBA. But if you remove the NBA, let's say if you couldn't cover the NBA, what would be the primary sport that you would cover?
Well, I mean, basketball's always been my blood, so it'd be something in basketball. But if it's another sport in general, it would either be soccer, hockey, or football. You know, I grew up playing soccer as a child. I coach youth soccer now. The NHL I've always been a fan of, you know, and it's a different space when you're a minority who loves hockey because they look at you funny anyway. So I figured that would be a great way to introduce minorities into hockey because it's a beautiful sport when you actually watch it. It's better watching it live than, of course, on television. And, you know, football because, you know, who doesn't love football? You know, even with all the things that have happened off the field, the NFL is still that sport. It's always must watch. In most cases must watch television every Sunday for 20 weeks out of the year. So 25 weeks of the year you're watching NFL on Sunday. So one of those three sports probably.
All right, I'm glad you didn't say NFL is number one. I know you cover a lot of soccer, and we've talked for years about, you know, soccer being or football being such a global sport outside of the U.S. And will we ever see it at the capacity inside the U.S. as it is outside the U.S.? Or is the problem that football and plus with the, you know, NBA encroaching on that you know, number one, you know, most loved sport, will we ever see soccer inch up closer?
You can, but the thing is you're going to have to start finding owners with the pockets of European owners. That's the difference. European owners treat their football clubs or soccer clubs at a whole different level than the MLS owners treat their clubs. Like, for example, if you look at Arthur Blank in Atlanta, you know, Arthur Blank owns the Falcons. I guarantee you to look at his books for the Falcons compared to his books with Atlanta United, not even close. But if you go overseas, you look at these guys, and their books are insane. Like Cristiano Ronaldo, for example, his yearly salary is more than anybody on an MLS roster combined. So you look at the entire Atlanta United squad and look at Cristiano Ronaldo, he makes more than that entire team. So once we start getting owners who can open that checkbook up the same way European owners do, then, yeah, soccer goes because that way you're getting the main superstars to come over here, and that's what markets a sport. When you can see a guy and look at him face to face. You look at an NBA guy, you look at your Kevin Durant, your Kyrie Irvings, LeBron Jameses. You look at those guys, and you see them. You can physically see them. Cristiano Ronaldo and Messi, you're very lucky. You might hope that you can find them when they do a tour in the United States. So there's your difference. So once you start getting U.S. owners with those pockets that are going to open up and pay checkbooks like they do overseas, that's when you're going to find what you're looking for.
Want to flip around for a second.
Hey Ted, we're gonna have to redo this podcast because I got my repair guy just showed up.
Okay. All right.
So,
no problem.
Let me take care of this, and as soon as
I'm happy that everything has worked out for you. Non-sports related question for you, sir. And I know we usually keep you you're usually in sports related topics. I want to ask you about the thoughts of those in Florida that we see our President Trump is releasing, I guess, immigrants that were detained in Florida, like more towards the south part of Florida, like in Miami, and it's nowhere in central Florida, but I'm guessing it's in pockets that are run by Democratic leadership. I want to just get the feel in Florida for that being a solution. Like, hey, we're going to release 1,000 a day.
I mean, really, the general thought, why does it have to be so few at a time? Just let them all go. Why are we doing this? Rules? Just get this over with. If that's what you're going to do it all at one time. I think that's really the basis behind it. I think, at least in my eyes, if you're going to do it full throttle. Just why do it at intervals?
You wouldn't think it's like whether you're doing it this way or where you go full throttle, it's going to the homeless number is going to increase. The shelters are going. I think in most of the cities, regardless whether it's a sanctuary city or not, that we're already at capacity. Aren't most of these shelters already at capacity? Like, isn't there like a level of lawlessness by doing something like this?
I mean, when you release the immigrants into society, release them back into, the main population, and there's no places for them. Yeah, I mean, it's just one of those efforts to try to get to seem like you're doing something, but you're not really doing anything but causing a bigger problem. Like you said, you're going to overflood cities, especially down in South Florida, that don't have enough as it is. If you were to give them the ability to release them and also put them in a situation where they can be successful in some kind of way, then yeah, it's a great idea. But once again, it's a half-thought-out idea just to say, hey, we're doing something.
Okay. All right. I just wanted to leave it there because I know you're in Central Florida, and I know at some point it's going to affect you, kind of like where I know it's going to happen also here in New York, because New York is a sanctuary city. It's also going to happen in San Francisco, where his point of view is I'm going to get back at these cities that have been securing these illegal immigrants. So it's not a political podcast, but we cover everything at Late Night Parents. As you can see, you go to the website, you'll see a little bit of everything. I think that's kind of needed. But question for you is, I want to get into NBA studio shows. There's the creme de la creme, which is inside the NBA, and then you have the ESPN show. Danny, you are now the new producer. You just got hired by ESPN. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Your sweet spot is basketball. You're going to be given X amount of dollars to revitalize the ESPN countdown show. What do you do? Who are you bringing in to be the talent? And how quick can you turn it around?
First and foremost, Paul Pierce will have been gone 3 days from yesterday. I mean, there's a thing where you try and do hot takes, but then there's a situation where you're watching last night's broadcast, and Paul Pierce said Eastern Conference Finals, I think 47 times it seems like, and Rachel Nichols had to stop him, repeat like, "Yo, you're talking about the Western Conference." The excuse was, "I played in the East for 15 years." I'm like, "Dude, get off my television screen." Yeah, Paul Pierce would have to go. I don't mind Jalen Rose and Rachel Nichols being on the site together. Chauncey makes a nice little third rendition, but I would go get Dwayne Wade. Wade is a very knowledgeable guy about basketball. It's Dwayne Wade. As long as Dwayne has, and he does his homework, I'm sure he's going to put the same effort in the television as he did on the basketball court. So if you put a guy like Dwayne Wade on the opposite side of Jalen Rose and let them go, here and there, I think that's a great concept. Or otherwise, what I would say do is you would have Rachel and Jalen as the two anchor pieces, and then just swap out the other two on different nights, to get different people involved in it and to raise ratings until you can find a chemistry and a group that's going to work setting, because it's kind of hard to put people all together. So I think you kind of rotate the other two, Chauncey's chair, and you will rotate Paul Pierce's chair until you can get a good concept, because I like Rachel and Jalen together.
Okay. What's your thoughts
Otherwise, if Rachel's gone, let me go get Maria Taylor and call it a day.
Okay. What's your thoughts on Cassidy Hubbard? I love Hoopstream. I think the Twitter show is. I think it's great.
I like her in that role as it is. Rachel is different because people watch because of Rachel, and she knows the game. So I don't mind her being in that chair. I love Cassidy, what she does. The show is a phenomenal. What she does is phenomenal. But I like her in that role. I'm not sure if she's ready for that type of if she's ready for that just yet. But Rachel's doing really well what she does. She's not a bad host. If Rachel was one of those questionable hosts, I would say put Cassidy in the seat. But since Rachel's good, in my eyes, I wouldn't swap out the two.
So what happened with Michelle Beadle? Because at one point I thought it was a great idea, but it just seems like the show is flat.
Can we just get her back on Sports Nation? Can we redo Sports Nation for a third time? Like, can we go get Marcellus Wiley back from the whole abyss of Fox and just put them two back together, because they were so good on Sports Nation? I love Beadle. In certain spots, I'm just not sure how this is working with her. Now, I can see Cassidy Hubbard replacing Beadle before I see replacing Rachel Nichols.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, I think what Rachel has done with the jump is...
I love her there. It's a perfect setting for her. Like I said, if I'm going to replace, I'll replace Cassidy Hubbard with Beadle, but not Rachel Nichols. Yes, definitely. Like I said, I like Cassidy Hubbard in this space right now, where she's doing digital, because it's. I mean, you hate to say it, it's a younger demographic, and that's where the audience is. Where you want to drive the audience, because I think the average age NBA fan that views the NBA who consumes it is 37 years old. Like I said, I think it's a good thing, but it's like you go from watching Inside the NBA, which is must-see TV, because you have no idea what's going to happen, whether they're having a serious conversation, or Kenny's doing a breakdown, or Shaq and Chuck are just going at it, and EJ is just facilitating all of this happening, and it's like, it's a remarkable show. And you go to ESPN Countdown, and we've seen like iterations of the show, from Magic and Wilbons and Bill Simmons. That during that stage is like, the fact that ESPN has kicked in. They pay the NBA almost $2 billion a year. You would think they would get the studio correct. The pre and the post game has to be on point, has to be on the level of the announcing teams that they have for, the coverage that they provide. they changed so much. The original dynamic with Magic was on the show was really good. And Magic has that personality, and you can talk to their basketball, and people respect Magic Johnson. The reason why Turner is considered the gold standard is because those guys have been together so long. EJ, Chuck, and Kenny have been together so long. Bringing Shaq in was a natural because Shaq has that personality. To me, Shaq is like Magic Johnson in a way. They have that dynamic personality when they're on the camera, and you can see it exude. And that's why it works so well. When Magic was doing Countdown, Magic was great at it. Magic and Wilbur were great at it because they brought a different perspective. And when Magic decided to go do more NBA stuff with the Lakers and those things, you can tell the difference because Chauncey had to go into the Magic Johnson role. And as good as Chauncey is, Chauncey doesn't have that it factor, that star factor. I think Dwayne Wade would have that star factor. You get what I'm saying? So I think Wade would have that personality because Wade's a personal guy. We're not getting Kobe on television anytime soon. So I think Wade might be the best option to have a Magic Johnson type of role on the show, and people respect that. Not that nobody respects Chauncey, but no one puts Chauncey on that level of Magic Johnson. So that's why I think the difference is something because Magic has the same percent of the same thing from the show.
Hey, Danny, you're coming in a little muffled.
Is this better?
Oh, that's a lot better.
No, what I was saying was, when Countdown first began on ESPN, you had Magic, and Magic was that centerpiece. Magic was the talking piece. He was the bright-eyed guy that always smiled, and Magic has a personality. When you look at inside the NBA, Kenny Smith knows what he's talking about. Chuck has that personality. And when they brought Shaq in after all those years of being those three guys, Shaq has the same type of, I'm going to listen to what Shaq has to say because Shaq is not only just really big, but he's won. And people draw to that because he has that personality. The ESPN guys don't have that personality right now. When Magic left, nothing against Chauncey Billups. Chauncey knows the game, but Chauncey doesn't bring that mic presence that Magic brought. And I don't think, and Jalen's a little bit, he's a little harsh for, he's a little rough around the edges for some, and Paul Pierce is Paul Pierce. So, you don't have that smiling face that you see that's going to draw folks in. That's why I say Dwayne Wade should replace Paul Pierce for him.
Okay. I got you. I mean, that sounds valid. I guess we get into the topic of, I've been wanting to talk with you for the longest about the WNBA. And I wanted to talk with you a few weeks ago, and we couldn't sync up our calendars. I wanted to talk with you about the impact of WNBA deal with CBS Sports Network. Is it a plus? I would take it as a plus. Even though there's, I don't think publicly we know the dollar figure for that deal, but any additional exposure for the WNBA is going to be good. I mean, it's I guess over the last decade, it's been, as long as I can remember, it's been treated as like a stepsister or the, redheaded stepchild that's off in the corner. Hey, we support it, but we really don't support it. And then we saw an influx of existing WNBA owners that are NBA owners that were selling their WNBA franchises. Your take on two things: the deal with WNBA and CBS Sports, because I think I mentioned to you, it's CBS Sports Network is in about 55 million homes. Huge impact or not? Because I remember there was a time when Lifetime was airing WNBA games, and it was aired all over the place, but it was never on. You can find it on ESPN, one of their channels, but it's never on big ESPN. So, what's your take? How do you fix the WNBA?
At this point, I think what you do to fix the WNBA is, number one, the CBS Sports deal is great for exposure, but really how much exposure they're going to get. And if you think about it, I would take a page out of this. The Arena Football League was on CBS Sports Network, and so is the AAF. The Arena Football League, hey, listen, you have as many nights as you want to, but guess what? They still went out and had to go acquire ESPN to consider consider themselves legit. And even listen to Atlanta Della Dawn talk about, our championship game is on ESPN News. It's like, who even watch? I don't even know anybody who watches ESPN News anymore. It was great when it came out 20 years ago because it was sports news all day. But guess what? I forget that ESPN News is even a channel nowadays. They're starting to show college football. I forget about that. How do you fix the WNBA? Really, honestly, if ESPN wants nothing to do with it, there should be one network that should go ahead and take this, and that's Turner at this point. If I run the WNBA, I'm going to Turner. They have the Bleacher Report app. I mean, you saw this week in other news that the Bleacher Report app is now supporting AEW, and so is Turner. So now they have the wrestling they're going to get. They have Champions League. They're trying to build their entire portfolio. You might see NBA games over there. I would go get the league's basketball partner because if ESPN wants nothing to do with it, why not Turner? Turner has, the 8, 7, 8, 9 networks through the Warner Media brand. You have the Bleacher Report app. Start showing WNBA games on TBS, TNT, Court TV. You start getting them in more homes than CBS Sports Network. I don't even know anybody who watches that channel. And once again, I feel like the WNBA, even though it might be a little bit of exposure, they might get another 10 or 11 fans watching it on Sports Network. They need a major partner to actually invest in them and actually show the product. If I'm owning the WNBA or if I'm commissioning it with the money, I'm going to Turner and asking Turner, hey, listen, it's summertime programming. Give us the opportunity to keep you basketball on a grand scale in the summertime. I can't see why it couldn't work.
That's fair, but I mean, so I'm going to challenge you a little bit because ESPN has invested themselves in broadcasting women's basketball, whether it's pro or collegiate basketball. The problem is the real estate. If they're putting it on ESPN2 or ESPN News, and that's borderline in hell. They need to dedicate more time to put this on big ESPN. And that's where I feel, collectively, they need a push. So, I mean, I know, like, the commissioner handles X, Y, and Z. I would look to see whomever is handling the business operations side of WNBA and get us a real deal. Get us some real packages that we're generating revenue. And then the in-house problems with all these, the various star players that are sitting out or they choose to go play in Europe. You got to address the pay scale.
That's another thing. And I think if you look at the television deal, Ted, yeah, they have ESPN's behind them. But how many nights during the summer have you watched big ESPN show cornhole?
Yeah.
They're showing cornhole presented by Johnsonville Sausages over the WNBA.
Yeah.
At that point, I mean, I've seen nights. I think I saw a couple nights last year where games were on ESPN2, but big ESPN is showing cornhole. Like, what is the difference? They're showing 5 straight hours of World Series of poker while the WNBA playoff game is going on.
Yeah, it's a huge problem. That's a huge problem, and that's where you have to nail down the commitment. You nail it down.
I think now they have a commissioner now, so that should be a first start. They just brought a commissioner in this week, and I think her main job is to figure out how to expose this league a little bit more. You're right. Get these women not to play overseas. Somehow, I think in the new CBA, to get the balance of how money is being drawn in closer to the player side. I mean, I think I forgot how bad it is, but it's not even close to what other sports give their athletes compared to the owners. Now, I'm not saying it should be a 50-50 split because I understand that, but it should be a little bit more in the favor towards the women a little bit. I would at least say 60-40. Give the women 40% of the revenue so they don't have to go play overseas. Like you're right. Because we just lost Breonna Stewart a couple weeks ago because she hurt herself overseas and playing in, I forgot what country she was. She's out for the entire season. And because these women have to make a living outside of the United States, that's what they have to do. I'm not saying paying these women the same scale as LeBron James or paying them as high level in the same price as your Kyrie Irvings, those guys in the NBA, because I understand those guys bring in a bigger revenue. But if we actually took time to invest money into these women, there's so many girls that play basketball right now, and you start investing in these cities, these players, these organizations. Same thing we were talking about soccer. How can you fix soccer in America? You got to start getting people with deeper pockets to start putting money into it. The same way with the WNBA, because Ted, we're at the age 10. We remember the We Got Next campaign in '96.
Yes.
And I lived in Charlotte, and Charlotte had about, we drew about 8,000 fans. But Ted, you remember how crazy the Garden was when the Liberty first got to New York?
Oh, totally. Totally. I mean, and it's, the horrific thing about it is they've been playing in Westchester at the Knicks practice facility that holds, 4,000 seats? Because, I mean, when it comes down to dollars and cents, I get it. To host an event at the Garden, you got people tripping over each other, whether it's from concerts or your Disney on Ice type stuff to, I mean, even monster trucks.
Mm-hmm.
You got to look at, I think about the time where you go to, for the team in Connecticut, they play in the arena for Mohegan Sun. It's only maximum, 7,000 seats? I mean,
yeah, but for Connecticut, I think that's okay saying for Connecticut.
You do?
Yeah.
All right. I mean, I just think the involvement needs to be there. I think also that basically what you said before, you got to put the bucks behind it. You got to put the bucks behind it.
And Ted, remember, we can go back to '96. Ted, remember, Ted, at one point we had 2 women's leagues going head to head.
Yeah.
People forget the ABL existed, and the ABL was taking some of the best players away from the WNBA. We were arguing that sometimes that some of the ABL teams would beat some of the WNBA teams. And it was like, Ted, why are the athletes? There's so many more women basketball players there is now compared to there was in '96. Not to say the talent level wasn't as great then. Ted, we have all these great women athletes. We can barely find them. Back in '96, Ted, what was it? NBC was showing WNBA every weekend. You had Fox Sports at the time when Fox Sports was just branching off, showing ABL games every week. I'm like, there was so much women's basketball on during the summer. It was more coverage than Major League Baseball. Now, I literally have to watch. I get more coverage of WNBA watching it on Twitter, because they do a great job with the Twitter broadcast, compared to finding it on my television. And you're telling me Maya Moore, Skylar Diggins-Smith, Alea Deladon, Liz Cambridge, Candace Parker, and Tia Charles, so many of these women that are playing right now cannot be marketable? Come on. I have a 5-year-old daughter that plays basketball, and she loves watching the WNBA. Yes, there's not a team close by, even though we're thinking about making that trip to Atlanta to go see the Dream. Big shout out to the Dream. She wants to see someone like herself on the television screen. I guarantee you, my little girl is not like can't be the only little girl that want to watch basketball. You don't want to watch somebody that looks just like her. But if it's not out there and we're not able to access it, it's like the tree of the forest. Who cares? So you're right, Sam. They have to put money into this. I think the NBA needs to do this. It's the WNBA. It's the NBA's little sister. They should treat it like its family instead of, like you said, the stepchild.
Want to quickly move to I got a lot of people. Well, I'll start it like this. I caught on to Game of Thrones very, very late. You have a lot of people complaining about season 8 without providing any spoilers. Are you upset with the way? I mean, HBO put together, I think it cost $90 million to produce 6 episodes. Are you happy with the way the season has progressed? Or do you kind of feel like it was a money grab? Product placement, haphazardly product placement. What are your thoughts on Thrones this season?
if the rumor is true, it's disappointing that HBO had 2 episodes left on the table they could have created. As far as my thoughts on the season, they literally have 1 more episode to get this right. My biggest concern is not even about Game of Thrones, it's knowing the history of HBO and how they end their shows. It's always left something to the imagination, and it doesn't close off correctly. I mean, there's so many shows HBO has done. I'm excited for the final episode, but I'm also nervous at the same time. I don't want to put all my eggs in one basket per se, and have these huge expectations to be disappointed. But I am kind of concerned how this is going to end, and how they're going to close, how they're going to tie all the loose ends into one 85 to 90-minute episode on Sunday night. Kind of worried.
Okay. I mean, like I said, it's all you have to do, whether you're a fan or not, just log into your Twitter feed on Sunday evening, and you can just see the complaints, see and hear the complaints.
Oh yeah.
Across the globe. It's scary.
And I agree. I mean, I said there's a petition, Ted. There's a petition out there for HBO to redo season 8. Last thing I think it was up to 20,000 signatures to redo season 8.
I mean, I'm not sure if that's a joke or what the deal is. I mean, I like I said, with HBO spending $90+ million to produce the final season and a whole lot of cash to promote it, sure, send a petition, because whether or not you are satisfied with these last 6 episodes, that with a show that's no longer in production, and you're sending this petition to a telephone company, AT&T. They own it. So whatever they want to put out, they're going to put out, and you're going to watch it. That's where the power of the consumer, I really think it doesn't matter. It's one of those few occasions where they can put together a pretty crappy product. I'm not saying this season 8 has been a crappy product, but I'm just saying they could put the conglomerate could put together whatever. You're going to watch it.
Yep.
And your complaints mean nothing. So, one of the last questions I have for you is, you saw Endgame.
Okay. I did.
You enjoyed it. You consumed it like the world. It's probably going to touch $3 billion in, ticket sales and revenue and everything else like that. What are your thoughts on either a Disney Plus show or, a movie to come out regarding Cap and his adventures with returning the stones, returning Thor's hammer, and connecting with Peggy Carter? You think that's something realistic, or are you thinking, hey, we told the story, that's that?
I think they should play that out in the Marvel Universe this time around. Because I think because it touches so many different aspects of the Marvel Universe, I think you play it out in the movie aspect, or somehow refer to Captain America's adventures in each of the movies going forward. How the stones affect each of the Marvel landscape going forward. I think that's the best way to do it. I don't know if I'd be so interested in the show, because I'm not sure how each part would affect the next part. So I would rather play out in the movies, since each movie is individualized. That way it all ties together when they decide to put it all together for wherever, either next Avengers movie or whatever they're going to use in this next Marvel set to be what the Avengers was in the last. If that makes sense.
Oh yeah, no, it totally does. It totally does. I just think if I was Disney, I would be able to squeeze another $1 billion out of. You put together a 2-hour movie, or a 2-hour and 10-minute movie with Captain America, with the returning the 6 stones, living with Peggy and dealing with stuff, getting him to the point where he handed over the shield to
Falcon.
To Falcon. I think.
Here's the thing. Maybe you could make Captain America just have cameos in all the Marvel movies going forward.
Okay. Okay.
You know, I mean, I'm not saying that Captain America could have the same impact as having a Stan Lee show up in all the movies. But hey, listen, like you said, if you're going to play into this, tie everything together, why don't you use Cap or have him show up or have something of Captain America in each of these movies as it pertains to the new Marvel universe?
Okay. Any thoughts on Far From Home, on the trailer?
I'm excited to see how this turns out. I have been pumped from a Spider-Man movie in a while. Last couple Spider-Man movies, they were solid, but nothing to sit here and say, okay, I'm going to go see it the first night. So this one, I have a very, very high excitement level for it. It's my second most anticipated movie of the summer. I can't wait to see how it turns out.
So, hey, final question I'm going to ask you, Danny. You do a lot where you're the executive editor of your website. You do podcasting. I know I've heard whispers of an upcoming radio show. You beat reporter / writer, journalist for other professional outlets. You're professionally, you deal with, public relations, all of that. Tell me, scale it for me. What do you like to do most in this world that you live in?
Between just those 5 things?
Between those 5 things. I know being a parent is number one. I get it, Skip. But in that role, in that role, 1 to 5, what do you like? What don't you like? Whether you want to go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, or however you want to do it. Or you could just say, hey, like, dislike, dealing with flaky people. Give me your thoughts on, because your website is yours. You own it. It's you. It tells, it speaks about you and all that you do with speaking about the NBA and everything else like that.
Right. So rank from 1 through 5. So for me, number 1, I love the radio aspect first. So if I'm picking number 1, the radio show, the radio host would be number 1. Because the difference between being on radio and doing podcasting and radio would be 1, the 16 radio show, because radio is so dynamic because of the fact that it's live. There's really, you really have to be on your game. There's a lot of unknowns and sometimes things you can't handle, some things you can't control. And that's the beauty of it, because it makes you have to improvise and it makes you really have to understand what you're talking about, what topics you're bringing in, who you're bringing on. Because if you're taking live callers, for example, you don't know where they're coming from. You don't know what aspect they're coming from. So as a radio show host of a live show, you really have to be on your game at all points in time. I think after hosting a radio show, the second part of it for me is the actual being at events, like you said, the attendance of events, like going to games, covering concerts, because those types of things help fuel me to actually do the third thing, which is the editor-in-chief, which is right. I think the fact of, because writing from home and writing at an event is 2 totally different things. I've covered the playoffs from home when the Magic were not in the playoffs for years. And it's so much different covering at home than this year for the first time in my professional career covering a live playoff game, because the atmosphere is so much different. You just get that adrenaline boost when you're actually at a stadium or at a concert. You get that adrenaline boost that just motivates you to write, which leads into number 3, which is editor-in-chief, because I love to write. So sometimes we feel like you can write all day long and you hit that writer's block. If you go to that event, it just magically gives you 5 or 6 other things to write about, especially sports. Because when you're at an event, you're at a game, and you're writing on something, and then you run into somebody, or you run into a player, you hear something in conversation, and you get sparked to write something else. So that's a perfect way for me to cure any type of writer's block I have, or just to do something different. I think 4 for me is it's public relations. Because you have to put your brand out there. That's the one part I'm still learning that part. It's the most difficult part, because for me, sending out emails or just doing things over computers or phones is not how I like to do things. I'm a face-to-face person, because people can see me and just be around me, and I can do the same for them. I can look at them and not have to see a computer or try to interpret. You can see their facial expressions. So doing public relations is 4. I know it has to be done, but I'm still in this process. I've been doing this for a while, but I'm nowhere near the expert I want to be. And 5 is podcasting. Because if I'm in a radio show all week and then having to do a separate podcast is one thing. The one thing I love about podcasting, what we do now is that you have the ability to bring somebody on and just be a little bit more candid, much more free, and much more open with some things. But it's always with podcasting is really trying to be a part of the schedule, because, like you said, you're doing so many different things. How can you schedule a podcast in the midst of everything that's going on? So that's my order 1 through 5. I love all of them. Like I said, it's just the hardest thing for me is podcasting because of time. But my most favorite thing is actually live radio. So that's my 1 through 5.
Okay. I could kind of see that, because the adrenaline of covering a live event and you in the mix, I think that's when you're at your apex. Last question. Do you watch Black Mirror?
You told about this. It is on my to-do list in the off season. Watching shows for me is so difficult. Like Game of Thrones is something I don't miss. There's maybe 3 or 4 shows throughout the midst of the professional season I can't miss. There's so many shows I need to catch up on. That is on my list to catch up on. So I will have to politely say I will catch up on it in July.
Okay. So I was just going to say to you, and we'll have this conversation at a later date. I was going to say to you, are you upset that new season of Black Mirror is dropping, and it's only 3 episodes? I'm like, geez, I just remember from the days of creativity, and it used to be 20, you would get 23, 24 shows per season. Then the Netflix craze came in and you got 10. Now it's to the point the Amazon craze came in and you started getting 8. Then to turn around, you watch the HBO and you're getting 8, you're getting 6 to 8. And we watched this with Disney Plus, you're going to get 5 or 6. Where with Apple, you might level off with 2 or 3, or hey, here's a docuseries. And I'm like, what in the world? I mean, I'm sure the cost to do this stuff, but you're now you're now having to wait a year or longer to put together the premise for a show. And I'm like, you're only getting 3 episodes? I mean, outside I understand if you count Bandersnatch, which was its own interactive episode, which probably, took a lot to put together and to do with the additional scenes. But I'm kind of like, wow, I could watch the whole season in roughly 3 hours and I'm done.
Yep. That's what we call microwave television, sir. We're in the microwave TV show generation. We don't see the 24 episodes anymore. The seasons that start from September and last through January, we don't get that anymore. Right? It's from September to next spring, we don't get that anymore.
Yeah, I remember September to May, and now it's just like. Ugh.
So if we get a show from September to December, hey, I'm glad with that nowadays. I mean, that's just because people's interests change so quickly, and not to mention, with the way shows are being so popular and these actors or actresses become popular, they start getting other projects. And when they start getting other projects that pay more money, that just puts other shows on the side. Think about it, Ted. One of my favorite shows is Luther, and that's what Idris Elba. And Ted, I mean, we've literally, I think we're season number 5 or 6, and the last one was only 5 or 6 episodes that he filmed in between other projects.
Yeah.
You know, we got a movie, but it hasn't been consistent. It just shows up when it does. It's great. It's great when it does. And then, you know, we're waiting for the next one. You know, Ted, think about it. Look how many years we waited. Look, we wait almost 2 years between Game of Thrones.
Yeah. For
to get 6 episodes.
For 6 episodes. For 6 episodes. I'm like, ugh. Yeah. So, bonus question for you is, if you were able, whether you were producing a show or you were starring in the show, but let's just say you were the showrunner. So, you're the showrunner for the show. Who would you air your show with? Would you air it with linear TV, network TV, or would you go to an HBO or Apple Plus or Netflix or Amazon?
As far as a regular television show?
Yeah, hold on one second. First phase of questions is, would you go with linear TV or were you going with a streaming partner? And then the second tier would be, you know, if it was a linear TV, which model do you think it would fall into, that Fox, NBC, CBS, or ABC, or the streaming of, you know, HBO Go, Netflix, Disney Plus, Amazon, or Hulu?
Wow. For me, I think for me, linear television might be the way to go. I know that people nowadays love the Netflix ideas, but for me, I'd rather do linear television first before I go to Netflix. And, you know, after a season, so you put the show on Netflix. And you can catch up on it later. I think for anything that's brand new, you have to go linear television. I think that's the best way to go. Now, for me, if I had to choose between network television and more of a non-traditional network, I'm going to take a non-traditional network. Give me an HBO. Give me, you know, maybe even a cable network. Those shows seem to survive a lot longer than the network television shows. That's just my opinion. You know, Ted, how many shows have we watched on the major 4 networks only make it 1 season?
Oh, several. It's the norm nowadays. I mean, if you can even get 5 seasons out of it. I mean, there's some dinosaurs that still exist, but for the most part, it's you're getting in and you're getting out. 3 to 5.
3 to 5 seasons.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. And so I think for me, you know, having an HBO show would be the best suited set for me, unless you're doing unless you're doing a sports show. Then of course, you know, you want on the 4 major networks. But yeah, if I'm doing a regular TV show, comedy show, drama, whatever, I would rather go with one of the linear networks because you have more freedom as well too. There's more freedom about things you can talk about, things you can say on those type of platforms compared to a network television platform.
Do you think it's easier to have to please your advertisers, or to go with the streaming services that are like, hey, we're not doing advertising, you go and rock however, and that's that?
Much easier without advertising in your face, because they're the ones that say, oh, you can't talk about this, oh, you can't talk about that. So, you know, it depends on what your show is talking about. Now, if you have a clean-cut, wholesome show that doesn't need any type of molding, then that's great. But most people like to write to be able to to show their artistic and expressive freedom. So I'd rather have my freedom than be confined. So I'd rather do without advertisers.
Are you happy with the NBA playoffs with no LeBron?
It's all right. It's a little bit different not seeing, you know, LeBron on the playoff floor. You get to see other guys step up, like I said, you know, Giannis, and you get to see how his evolution of his growth. You get to see, you know, Kawhi Leonard on a different type of platform. We all know about the Warriors, but I think to me the more entertaining thing in the playoffs is more the lottery than anything else. But I've enjoyed the playoffs. I haven't. There are very few nights that I've actually not stayed up or not tried to watch every single game in the playoffs. So it has my attention a lot more than most years of the playoffs. I'll say that.
In the future, you're going to be an NBA owner. You've just won the lottery. David Griffin is your GM. this is like 2050. David Griffin is your GM. You have this generational type player, and you also have a player that wants to leave your franchise. How do you instruct the David Griffin GM on what to do?
Exactly what Gail Benson is, the opposite of what Gail Benson is doing in New Orleans right now. You try to convince the star player to stay. If he doesn't stay, you instruct your general manager to make, especially if your general manager has a track record of knowing what they're doing and knowing how to construct teams, to go out and get the best deal possible. I mean, if you can't keep the star player there, you can't keep him there. If you know that player is not going to be around, you're going to leave, then you have to do what's best for the franchise. I mean, I know that, you don't want to send them to a certain team because of what happened. I get it. But at the same time, you have to do what's right for the franchise. You have an entire fan base you have to take care of. So you want to win. At the same time, you want to make sure you have people coming to the game. So for me, as an owner, I want to do what's best for my franchise, not what's best for my ego. So if a player wants to go to a certain location and that team offers the best package, then we do it. Otherwise, we send the player where we can somehow get our chance of benefit. No offense to the player, but it's a business move. So I would go for the best package available, not about team.
Danny, want to thank you as always for joining us. This is not a business-related podcast because we talk all the time about NBA, about life, about family, about situations that we find ourselves in. And I want to thank you because there's a lot of things that I bounce off of you and where you give me insight.
And vice versa, always.
So thank you once again, and best ways to get in contact with you.
Follow me on Twitter at Danny, D-A-N-N-Y, 3, Thompson, Around the Association on Facebook, which is Around the Association Radio, and AroundTheAssociation.com, releasing articles on a daily basis about the playoffs, as well as the NBA offseason. And Ted, the good news about the NBA offseason is that we get to start this 6 hours earlier than normal. I mean, in a summer of change, we get the lottery with all the changes in the rules, and now free agency starts on June 30th at 6 p.m. instead of July 1st at midnight. So I get an extra 6 hours to watch guys get paychecks that are just completely insane. I can't wait. So follow the website for all the latest news and everything, NBA related.
Man, thanks so much, all right?
All right, appreciate it all the time.
Bye.